We can often fall into this trap of going down the rabbit hole of perfectionism. We got to get it just right, exactly right, and nail it the first time, which is a fantastic aspiration, and we would all love to be able to do that. The reality is, sadly, as with many things, the reality is different from what we hope it is. It's just not feasible or even real in an environment where we don't really know what the end product is going to look like, needs to look like, or if it actually solves the problem or not. And even more importantly, whether it actually delivers that value, right? So what we need to do is we need to move away from this idea that we can get everything perfect up front. We need to instead focus on getting it good enough. And Scrum has this built in, of course, with the definition of done. If you're using Kanban, you've got policies at each workflow state where you're making sure that things are good enough to move to the next state. And by doing this, what we're doing is we're saying this needs to be good enough that we can safely validate this, get it at the door, and get some feedback on, does this work for our purposes or not? Does this solve the customer's problem? Is anyone willing to pay for this? Now, even if you have a product that you can't perhaps ship every 2 weeks, that's okay. Even if you can get something at the door that you can look at, you can measure it, you can see how it responds in the real world as close as possible, that's still better than trying to do all of it up front and then seeing if it works. Because by doing it a little bit at a time, checking in frequently, both with your customers, hopefully, I'm hoping you're checking with your customers frequently, but also how it works in the field, so to speak, in its real environment, we can see if unintended consequences or reactions or connections happen that we couldn't have foretold. And this is why it's complex work, right? There are just levers and dials that we can't see the connection between until we put stuff out there. So why is that feedback loop so valuable then? Well, it's because, again, perfection, one, is often subjective. Rarely ever do we have objective perfection. It's not the world we live in. So that means to make sure we get the most value in the shortest time possible for the least amount of effort possible, we need to get something at the door, check in it as quickly as possible in a safe way. I'm not saying to do this recklessly. It should be good enough to be usable. Usable means safe. If it harms you, it's not usable. Unless that is the purpose of it, like a scalpel, then that by definition harms you, but I digress. And by going through that loop, getting that feedback, we can faster pale in on what is the good enough, not just for this iteration, but for the product as a whole. Because guess what? If you put too much effort in, now you need to sell your product for more. And that might mean you actually lose customers because they can't afford that product anymore. You've poured in too much effort into it that it's untenable both for you as a business and for your customers for it to be sustainable. So you got to find that balance of value versus effort that's going to get to good enough. Perfect, sadly, doesn't exist in complex work. All right. Thank you very much for watching. And if you like what you saw and you want to hear more about what I've got to say in the future on similar questions, or if you have a question yourself, please reach out to me on LinkedIn. That's the easiest way to get a hold of me. You can also email me at oscar.styf@pragmaticshift.com. Please do like the video, share it with others if you think they might benefit from it, or follow my profile to see stuff as they come out as well. And I would love to be your Scrum Trainer. So please find my content on pragmaticshift.com. You can find the courses I've scheduled for the year, or on scrum.org.com as well. Look forward to seeing you in my classroom soon.